we in the last lesson we have talked about classes, how to define classes and creating objects, then how to define the attributes and the class methods. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, constructors are special methods. They are special methods of the class which are used to initialize the objects. Constructor method is called when we create an object. Like here, look at when this statement is executed in the main function. This is the statement where we are creating some object. Main is the class name, my obj is the object name, and this is the constructor new operator by which we create the object. When this object is created, uh, the function behind this line execute, that is called class constructor. Okay, you can see here we have defined here public main and then x is equal to 5. Okay, so the simplest definition of Java constructor, a special method with the same name which is the name of the class. This is limitation, this is restriction. If your class name is main, then the constructor name should also be the same. And the second thing, when we define the constructor, that constructor constructor function will have no return type. It can access, it can contain parameters. These are some key points about defining the constructor. Number one, the name should be the same for the class name. Number two, it will have no return type, and we will whenever we define a method with no return type, we put void in front of that. So no need to like write void in front of the constructor function. The second thing is here that constructor function can contain parameters. How many parameters can it contain? It could contain any type of any number of parameters. No, there is no restriction. Either you can have one or two. The main function, the main functionality of a constructor, we will discuss it in the future also. Whenever some class is defined, some object is defined, sometime we need to initialize the values of that constructor, that object. So whenever you want to create constructor, you will initialize the variable. Like here, this is an example here. This is the main function, and this is the variable x, and in the constructor function we are initializing the value to x. When we will create this myObj method, the object, this x will be initialized to 5. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here is an example of a rectangle class. First of all, we define here its two members. Like we define here, like we have int length, or we define static int length here. Okay, and then we define here static int width here. Okay, now we want to create a constructor here. We will define it public. The name of the function should be the same like the name of the class. Then this and this is your constructor. Okay, I will copy and paste here so that no difference of the, this is your constructor, and here I am going to assign the value length. For example, length is equal to 1 and width is equal to 1. Look at here. Now whenever I will create an object of this rectangle class, automatically the value of length will be set to 1 and the value of width will be set to 1. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Now the second thing. Now I want to make another constructor here. You can try this one by the main function here. This is the main function. We create an object here for the rectangle class. R1 is equal to new and rectangle. At here, this is our new function is required here. Now, if I simply type here system dot out dot println and the test area, okay, and then plus I call this function r1 dot and I make here the area function like public get area. Okay. This function will return the value int, so we mention its return type, and here we just return retu and return length multiply by width. Yes, this is return. The spelling are not correct. Look at here return, and I will call here. Look at when I will press the dot operator, you will see the function get area here. This is the get area, and we just type here. Now this is a class of rectangle which have two attributes length and width. For time now we are declaring these attributes as static, but sooner when we will study in the next lessons about encapsulation, we will define these attributes private. Okay, so we because till now we do not have the concept of encapsulation. In our tutorial we have at the here after studying the modifiers, and then we will discuss encapsulation. Then you can see here we will define how we define the attributes per private, and then we will make some mechanism to access these private members. But for the time now, you just need to learn and focus on the constructor now. This is a function whenever the new object will be created. This is the statement we are where we are creating a new object of class rectangle. Okay, now this R1 has two attributes dot length and dot width, and it have one method that is get area we are trying to access here. Okay, we save this class, go to the yeah, here Java, we compile the class. I have already typed the command. Look at here, no error here, and when I will run this class rectangle dot rectangle, you will see here the test area is equal to 1 because the test area is equal to 1 because 1 multiplied by 1 is equal to 1. You can see if I assign here the value 5 and the value 5 and then save it and again compile it. Okay, now when this object is created, the value of length is automatically set to 5 and the value of width is automatically set to 5. Why? Because in the we have initialized these variable in the constructor function. We have not called here the constructor function. But whenever the object is created, this is the basic functionality of Java constructors. Whenever new object is created, the value of the Java constructor function is called. Look at here. Now you can compile this. We have compiled. When we will run it like this one, you will see that the total area is equal to 25. So this is about constructor. The second thing about constructor, you can see here no return type. Okay, and this constructor have no parameter here. The second point, which is very important to note here, a class can have more than one constructors. Okay, a class
Mm.
more than one constructors. Now we will try to make this constructor with parameters. Like here, I will copy this constructor and will paste here, and here I provide him int L comma int W. I am providing him two parameters, and when this constructor will be called, L value will be sent to the length and W value sent to be the width here. Now we have two constructors. This constructor will be run when when object will be created with no parameter. Look at here. I have created and did not pass any parameter, this constructor will be called. We have studied this concept. This is called overriding or overloading. When we define the multiple constructors with different number of parameters in a class, then we call this functionality as constructor overloading or constructor overriding. We will define it later. Now I create here another function. I create here another object, rectangle R2. Okay, R2 is equal to new RE rectangle. This time I put here 6 comma 7 and I make it here. Okay, this is the wrong concept. Look at here. This R2 object is created, and this time we have called the parameterized constructor. Automatically, which constructor will be executed? The second one, not this one. Okay, this will be called when you will create an object without parameter, and this constructor will be called when you will provide two parameters. Now you can copy and paste here like this one, and this time you will call it with R2. Okay, R2 object, test area 2. Get here R1 R2, sorry, R2 R1 object. When R1 is created, this constructor will be executed, and the value of length and width will be 5 and 5 by default. When this R2 object will be created, we passed 6 as a length and 7 as a width. So this constructor will be called, and the value of the length will be set to L and width will be W, which is equal to 6 and 7. You can save it and you can compile it again. You will see no error here, and then you can run here. You can see here the total area is equal to 42 and the text area 2 is also equal to 42. Why this is so? Because we have defined these variables static. Whenever the attributes will be uh, defined as static, whenever you will change the value of these variable, look at here, when this length value is changed, this value is automatically updated. So R1 is also getting the same value which are set by this one. This is another concept. This is a bit conflicting concept, but this is only due to static keyword. Okay, when we remove this static keyword here and we try to compile it, get here, this is Java C, and we run it. Look at here, the test area is equal to 25 and the test area 2 is equal to 42. What is mean by the static? This will be our next topic when we'll talk about Java modifier, but we have luckily got some concept here. The static, when you define the attribute as static, it means that the value of those will be assessed by all objects of that classes. Static means sharing the very attribute among all objects. You have seen that. Look at when we make it static and when we make it static. Now, when you will set this value 6 and 7, the value of this length and width will also be shared by the R1 object and the R2 object. If you will create some other object, the same value will be shared there also. Okay, so we currently remove this static. Now you can see here, this is the constructor which is initializing the value with 5, and this is the constructor which is taking parameter and then initialize variables with that parameter value. And here we can see here the constructor. This is called default constructor without any parameter. This is called default constructor. Okay, and this is called second type of constructor, that is called parameterized constructor of the class. We still have multiple constructors. If we want to define some other constructor, then we can also define some other constructor. But the concept of here, you need to remember what is constructor, how we define constructor. Now we move to the here. Look at parameterized constructor. We tried here, and you have as many parameters as you want. And one important thing that you must note here, if there will be no parameter type, and there will be no return type. The name should be the same. And if you want to, all classes have default constructor. If we do not define a class without constructor, like here, I copy this code and create a new file here, and I paste this file here, and change the name of class here, like you can see here, art rectangle 2. Okay, and definitely I remove these constructors from here. Okay, the constructor values are removed here, and I make it static. Okay, and I again make it static. You can see here this is static, and because we have removed this, so we cannot define in this way, but this way can be defined now. And here we will set the value of r1 dot le, sorry, we will have to create this of rectangle 2 here, r1 dot rectangle 2, and okay, r1 dot length, which is equal to 6, and r1 dot width, which is equal to 7 here. And now we call the r1 rectangle. The question which the concept which I want to, uh, we have no constructor in this class. Okay, you can see here. Okay, Sidhu, can you see this?
Yeah.
We have no constructor. Then what constructor will be called when this object will be created? Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
will save this file. Save as. Look at, I save this file. The name should be asked, and the name of the class should be, that is also mandatory for Java. This file is saved. Now we go here, we compile rectangle 2, and we will see here no error. We will compile, we will run rectangle 2, and we will see the value 42 here. The question is here, we do not have any constructor in this class. Look at the code of this class. Then how this object is created? The answer to this question is here. Look at here. If you do not create the class constructor yourself, then Java creates one for you automatically. If your class have not been defined any constructor, if you do not have defined any constructor, then every Java compiler will create the constructor of that class automatically. Okay, so look at here, this is the default constructor. If we remove this one, and here in this class, the default constructor is made by the compiler. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any question about the constructor definition? uh,
No.
okay, okay, so you can try here with the constructors, and we could define it in our